He was acquitted by a jury for lack of evidence, and he should have been serving a 10-year sentence at that time. So if he served the full 10 years, Ellie would still be alive. Just a quick disclaimer, the content presented in this podcast is based on real events and may contain graphic descriptions of violence, crime scenes and other disturbing material. Listener discretion is advised. This episode is sponsored by Think Forensic.
Think Forensic are a one-stop shop for all things forensic science and crime solving. They hold experience days, as well as corporate events, team building events, and general education for primary school right the way up to university level, as well as other events and consultancy. There's also a shop where you can get your hands on all things crime solving, from evidence gathering to packaging and collecting evidence, as well as other forensic science equipment.
For more information or to book on an experience day, please visit the website. Hi everyone, and welcome back to episode 26 of the Grave Secrets podcast. We're your hosts, I'm Annie.
And I'm Beth. So today we've got an Eyes and Ears episode for you.
You seem to be loving these.
I know. Well, if you haven't listened or watched one of our Eyes and Ears episodes previously, effectively it's your true crime Eyes and Ears, and we just talk about things generally true crime related that we might have listened to podcast wise or that we've seen on TV. Generally there's a trending Netflix either documentary or series in there somewhere as well, isn't there? But we just have a bit of a chat. So we're going to try and keep it relatively light-hearted today.
Light-hearted and short and sweet.
Yeah. So, yeah, we will be flitting here, there and everywhere, I think, won't we?
Yeah.
But the first thing I want to talk about, again, I've just mentioned the Netflix type thing. My, oh my. One of my friends was talking about, she was like, right, you've all got to watch this documentary, it's crazy. And it's called Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter.
Right.
So, don't know why, but I thought Into the Fire, The Lost Daughter sounded like some kind of, like, old school, like, set in China type.
I don't know, I thought for some reason like some like cult stuff.
Oh, cult, you see, that would have been a good one as well. But it's not at all what you expect. In fact, only right at the end do they even reference a fire. So spoiler, it's not actually fire related at all. And it was only right at the end that I was like, why has it even got that title? But
like just one word that they said at the end of it.
Yeah, and you're like, aha.
Oh, that's why.
But there's so many twists and turns, it's unreal. So it's 2 parts, although I quickly realised that it's not like just watching a 2-hour film, because I think the second episode is like 1 hour and 40 something.
Right, okay.
So I voice noted you one night and was like, I'm just going to watch this documentary and then I'm going to revise a whole case study. And then I realised it was like 4.5 hours later. And
so you watched it all in one go. Did you say it was Netflix, this?
Yeah.
Right, I've not seen it advertised, that's all.
Yeah, I think it was trending just before all of the new ones have come in.
Ah, okay.
So
I've just missed it.
Yeah, but it is just a complete roller coaster. I'll give you a little bit of an insight, but again, I don't really want to spoil it. I'll let you watch it for yourself. But effectively, a woman gives up her daughter for adoption. The little girl's just 9 months old when she gives her up for adoption. The reason that the woman's given her up for adoption in the first place is because she's really young herself. And basically her friends, her family and the medical professionals were telling her that her daughter would be given a better life. Like she'd have the best of the best in terms of adoptive parents.
Okay.
And that she can't give her the life she deserves.
Where's this set, by the way?
This is in America.
Okay.
I don't actually know which part of America. Actually.
I thought it sounded quite US.
Yeah, it spans across kind of a few different places. But yeah, so that's it. And she doesn't hear anything for years. She's really happily married, and the relationship between this the real mother, the birth mum, and her partner is really lovely, and you see that kind of progress as it goes on. But what happens, again, we just bang on about DNA all the bloody time, but she gets a letter through the post asking if she will give a DNA sample because they suspect that a Jane Doe murder victim that they've got who was found dead in a cornfield might be her birth daughter.
Right. Is it a true story or is it drama?
True story, documentary.
Wow.
Yeah. So she obviously then wants to know all of the details.
Yeah.
And then starts her own journey because they can't actually give her anything. So the police can't tell her anything about the investigation. And then the adoption agency won't give her anything because she'd basically signed to say that she wouldn't have any contact.
Right. You'd think, though, in these cases, there'd be like some extenuating circumstances or exceptional circumstances.
And it's years and years later.
Yeah.
So she's, her daughter would have been an adult kind of thing. But so she effectively does her own search for her daughter. And again, like we've talked about in other cases, social media plays a massive part in this one.
Yeah.
That's effectively where she kind of begins her search.
And on now, there's like the ancestry and stuff, isn't there?
Yes.
So just a little bit off subject, but I joined the ancestry. I did my DNA and whatever.
Yeah.
And my gran is really big on like the family tree and connecting everyone. So she's got this huge family tree. So I'm obviously on her family tree. And not that long ago, it's probably a couple of months ago, I got a message from someone saying, I'm looking for my dad. And they have come up as like having people, relatives in common with you.
Right.
And the person who was in common was like my second cousin.
Okay.
Or something.
Yeah.
And then I asked my gran and said, like, do you know who this person is?
Yeah.
And she'd heard of like the surname and it was all really weird. And then when I went back to him, I was like, oh no, I don't know who, like the name of your dad or whatever.
Yeah.
But, we do have these people on this side of the family. And he was like, oh, I found him. And he found him through Ancestry.
It's, things like that are crazy. I love Davina McCall on the Long Lost Family thing.
Yeah.
But one thing that I'd never thought of with this situation is I was listening to a podcast. Again, it was an American comedian. And he was saying, no way would I ever do I think it's called like the something 22 they've got in America, like you, me, I don't know what it's
What
called.
is it like, who do you think you are?
No, it's like Ancestry.
Right.
But their equivalent where you send in your DNA. 22andMe or something. It's got a really odd name. Anyway.
Is that something to do with like chromosomes and stuff though?
Possibly, yeah.
I feel like that'd be something
that
they'd
makes
call
sense.
it, yeah.
Yeah. Which would make sense as to why I didn't know it. I haven't got a clue about chromosomes. But he was saying, no way would I give my DNA to a third party. And I thought, that's interesting. Because when we go into schools and colleges, we talk about the ethical dilemma as to whether or not everyone at birth should give their information, their fingerprints and their DNA into a database to prevent crimes from occurring and, serial offenders, or whether or not it's too dangerous because if there is a data breach, if someone tries to use your information in a negative way to maybe frame you, like basically where do you stand on it?
So I did mine.
I thought, God, all these people are doing like ancestry and stuff.
I did mine originally for when it works out your actual ancestry, so not your family tree. Yeah. Like I wanted to know what percentage of what places I am. Yeah. And I can't remember exactly what my results were now, but there was some like Russian, there was some Scandinavian, and I thought that explains a lot. Yeah. That explains why I look like I do, because a lot of people do think, before I open my mouth, obviously, that I could be Russian. Yeah. And I'm always like, really? Yeah. Yeah. And I think, so that
I used to play that game at school, especially in science. For some reason, it must have been boring. Ironic now, but it used to be like if they were from a different country, where do you think they'd be from? Oh, everyone used to say German for me.
Yeah, I don't know where you'd be. I'm rubbish with stuff like that.
And obviously French, like a lot of people could look a little bit French. Yeah. But that was a fun game.
I'd look more at like the way you dress and think like, where would someone like so flamboyant come from?
Yeah. I'd like to say Italy. But they're too classy.
Probably not the UK.
Probably not around here.
South Yorkshire.
But yeah, so the ancestry thing's an interesting one, isn't it? But again, in this documentary, she then tries to hunt down her birth daughter.
Yeah.
Finds her birth daughter. Finds out who the adoptive parents are. And then discovers that her daughter has actually been missing since the age of 14. So then starts trying to solve her birth daughter's missing person case years down the line.
Wow.
It's fascinating. And again,
I'm going to watch that one. Yeah, that sounds like a really good watch.
Yeah, it is. It's just again, it's difficult because I don't want to give too much away because there's so many twists in it.
Yeah.
But the one thing that I will say is there is one scene and it is just crazy because effectively the birth mum and the adoptive mum end up in the same room together.
Right.
Without knowing.
Neither of them know.
Neither of them knew that they were going to be there.
Right.
And then they end up in the same room. And then it's actually birth mum's husband. I know I'm making this really confusing. But birth mum's husband that is like, hang on a minute, isn't that?
Oh. I'm going to have to watch it now, aren't I?
Yeah. So the only thing that I will say is that it references the Missing in Michigan Association, and that seems like a really valuable kind of association foundation to talk about. So it's founded in 2010 and they aim to connect families of missing people in Michigan with law enforcement agencies. So again, encouraging like cold case reviews and things like that, and just giving people an opportunity to talk about what they've been going through. But they hold massive conferences like every year. Again, just they'll have like keynote speakers, but it's just an opportunity for families to come together and be with other people that understand
and just talk.
Yeah. So again, that's the Missing in Michigan Association, and I thought that was, really a valuable one to mention because it doesn't get referenced too much. But again, I had a look into it and it looks like it does an awful lot of good work.
I'm definitely going to give that one a watch. And one of the other ones that you had recommended a good few weeks ago was the Obituary.
Yes.
And watched that, loved it. I thought that was so good. Yeah. And it's just left it open for another series as well.
Yeah,
so.
It has. And again, I liked that one because it's an easy watch, but it is clever. Like when it got towards the end, I didn't know what was...
No, and then it looked like everything were going to be happy, and then there were just that twist at the end again, and I was like, oh, this is gonna, the next season of that is going to be really good. But to be honest, I've not watched that much not as much as normal, like true crime stuff. I feel like there's been so much new stuff out at the moment.
When you say new stuff.
Yeah, my new stuff. So like Emily in Paris, we've got Selling Sunset, which obviously I know that... None of those two, I don't think you'd be.
Selling Sunset,
really?
Up until like series 3, I think
didn't have you down for a Selling Sunset kind of girl.
I think there's a group of girls that I used to work with, and our group chat has just become primarily just talking about Selling Sunset, or it was.
Yeah.
I lost track with it a bit, but who's your favourite? Because I've got a definite favourite.
Everyone is like, why is she a favourite? Okay. I absolutely love her. It's Chriselle. But everyone thought that Christine was going to be my favourite.
No, because you're a lot nicer.
My sister was like, oh, I thought you would really like Christine. And I was like, what? No.
There are certain things, like I feel like you would quite like her aesthetic.
Yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But then she does wear like crazy outfits.
You know what
sometimes.
I would like?
Yeah.
Her wedding.
Yeah, I see. This is what I mean by her aesthetic. So for things like her wedding, I can completely see you getting behind things like that. She did wear some cool outfits that were a bit weird that I thought I liked. So maybe not. So
we don't normally cross over, do we?
But honest to God, Chriselle, if you are listening,
is she actually your favourite too?
Yeah, I love her to bits, and she's now with G Flip.
Yes.
In real life, and they just make such a beautiful couple. They seem
I just
really
love
down
her.
to earth.
Absolutely
But
love
she's
Chriselle.
just the most down to earth one.
She is, yeah. And
She'll
then did
be
you see
honest, but not in a like mean way.
her background though? What she was talking about, how she were homeless.
Yes.
Both her parents were
Yeah.
addicted to drugs,
Yeah,
and she's had a tough life.
Yeah, and she actually made all of the team go and do one of the homeless cookouts, didn't she? She just seems like a really good person. So yeah, she's definitely my fave.
Oh, something we actually agree on. And I have been watching. There's obviously Only Murders in the Building.
Yeah. So again, I've watched all of the series. And there was quite a big gap before this last series came out, wasn't there? And I was really excited. And again, please don't report me to the TV people or whatever it is. Netflix, don't track me down. But I sponge off like Netflix and things. So there was a period in which no one had Disney. And I was like, how am I going to watch the new series? How am I going to watch it? Anyway, managed to. And I was really excited about it. I was a bit disappointed.
I don't think, are all the episodes out though? Because of the newest one, I think I'm only on, it's only showing up for me. No, so that's the last, there's a new one literally just out. Episode comes out every Tuesday.
Okay.
And it's back in the Arconia again.
Oh, okay. Then maybe that'll be better.
And I think it'll be good because it's got like Saz is still in it.
Right, yeah.
From before, and then you've got the original.
Yeah.
The original ones, obviously. But then you've got like ones that are added in and you see more of the Arconian building across the road. And them people that are in there, you know, the guy with the eye patch, you might have seen him.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's not just them doing the podcast anymore. It's the whole of the building, so the police officers.
Again,
like
we're getting very carried away here. For anyone that hasn't seen it, Only Murders in the Building is Selena Gomez and then two really famous actors that I can't think of the name of.
Have you not noticed though? They have so many like cameos of people. Like in one of them, there was Sting. There was what's that girl called that I like?
Meryl Streep's been in it.
Meryl Streep, yeah.
Yeah.
Loads of people just have some random like cameos and put up.
Well,
Eva Longoria is in this most recent one.
Well, I think that's why I didn't like the whatever series it was where they were doing a play, because it became a bit too cameo and less murder.
Thing is though, some of these people that are in it, Jay will say to me, oh my God, he was in this, he was in this, he was in this, and I'll be like, who is it?
Okay.
So I don't actually know them all anyway.
So again, the premise of that one is that in the first series, a murder takes place in the building, and then this unlikely trio come together and start coming up with theories as to who they think. Obviously, they all know who lives in the building, so they're coming up with theories
like investigators, don't they?
to who's done it, and then decide to like start voice recording their thoughts so that they don't like forget any links, and then decide to start a podcast, and it kind of spirals from there, doesn't it?
And it really takes off, and they get like quite
I'm gonna have
famous.
to Google the names of the guys because one's right on the tip of my tongue, and I feel like it's this.
You know what? When we say it, you'll be like, "How did you not know that them
like
two was in it?" So while you are googling that, there was another podcast that I came across the other day, and I thought it looked really interesting, and it is actually called Scam Town.
Okay.
And it's it says the intro I read, and I thought this was really good. It says, welcome to Scam Town. It's a place where the true crime is stranger than fiction and the stories are filled with quirks and moral ambiguity. Ooh. And I thought you're going to love this. So the one that I was listening to, season 1, episode 6, is the Rikers Island. Oh. And it was Salvador Dali had donated one of his paintings or one of his drawings to Rikers Island jail inmates in the 60s. And it survived years of bouncing around the prison and on different walls and whatever, and then eventually they put it behind like a glass screen. And in 2003 it suddenly goes missing. Oh. And they're then looking
so it's a podcast about that case.
This episode is.
Okay, yeah.
But then you've got like loads of different ones. So there's loads of different episodes. But I just thought that Rikers Island, like Salvador Dali donating a drawing to prisoners.
I mean, it's rogue, but also it's Dali, isn't it? So it makes sense.
But I thought that might be something you'd like as well.
Yeah. I love anything Dali related.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Up your street.
So it's Steve Martin and Martin Short. very similar.
I wouldn't
names.
have even recognised their names, to be fair. Is there anyone? I only know Selena Gomez. That's it.
Cara
Selena.
Delevingne, she was in it massively. Wasn't
She was, yeah. She was in the
there's been
last
that many
one.
people, yeah.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll give the like newest series a go, but I did find first series absolutely loved it.
Yep.
It was great, and then I've teetered off a bit, but maybe this will bring it back if they're back at the arcade.
Arcania. Oh God, I can't even say it. Another one that is not true crime related, but I know that you're going to love this one as well. The Mormon Housewives.
Okay. Yeah.
So when you've watched
this
that,
is TV now.
Yeah.
And is this
TV.
on Netflix?
Is it Netflix or is it Disney?
I
think it's Disney because it originally came up on Hulu, so it will be Disney. Yeah. So yeah, a bit of our random sort of bits and pieces that we're watching at the moment. So half of mine is still like true crime.
Yeah.
Some of it is like scam stuff, and then the other half is like Emily in Paris and Housewives.
Yeah.
So that probably sums up my life.
Well, I've been so busy recently, and I feel like we have been doing quite a lot of podcasty work bits. So I've just been trying to chill. So I've been, and I always say this anyway, but I've been watching Midsummer Murders. But I've gone.
I always laugh when you say Midsummer Murders because I can't imagine just like sitting down with my cup of tea and thinking, what can I relax to? And then it's Midsummer Murders. I find it so comical.
I did 2 episodes of Miss Marple as well the other night.
I just find it quite comical.
Yeah. Well, so I've started rewatching, but like right from episode 1. So this was like John Nettles.
What year would
the OG?
Yeah, what year would that be?
I think it's early 2000s.
Okay, so it's not that. I thought it was going to be like.
But honest to God,
70s
Annie,
or something.
some of the stuff they come out with, like, I know we talk about, like, things that are inappropriate now, but my, oh my. So within the first 3 episodes, there's 2 quite graphic depictions of incest.
Do you think they've toned it down now then?
Well,
and that's what it were like then? It was acceptable?
Now it's just utterly ridiculous because now people are dying from, like, it'll be like an old Renaissance art fair or something in the village. And instead of like a sponge to the face while they're in the stock, someone will get like an arrow through the head. Like it's all just mad now. But yeah, and another one of my personal favourites is a person that gets knocked out and then they're just laid on the floor, but they work in a chocolate shop. So the person just pours a whole big like tub or vat of melted chocolate to drown them. So they just drown in chocolate. But then when the woman, I can't remember her name, comes to do the like initial analysis of the dead body, she's having to like chip because obviously the chocolate's set.
Chip away at the chocolate.
Yeah. So now it's just absolutely ludicrous. But back then, oh my God, some of the stuff they came out with. And Troy, so Troy is like John Nettles as he's like the detective sergeant. And he's really out of pocket.
Out of pocket.
Like there's quite a few lesbians in one of the episodes, and some of the phrases he uses, he's like, words to this effect. He's basically like, oh great, I'll go and interview another lesbian then, shall I? And then you're just like, Troy.
Bloody hell.
You can't say that, Troy.
You don't get away with that nowadays.
So yeah, if you fancy something different, I'd go back to the old
comical
days of Midsummer Murders.
So one that I have been watching in particular because there is a new season out of this. I'm not sure how many seasons there are to start with. There's quite a few. And it's Crimes That Shook Britain. And I like it because there's quite a few episodes per season as well. And it's one of the typical crime documentaries that goes into detail on like the people who worked on the case, the families,
the
and interviews, so it is. I like these ones because it's you're getting the information firsthand, so you know that it's correct and true sort of thing. I like to know what I'm watching is true. So actually, it's the 9th series that we're on at the moment, and it has only just aired. So the first episode went out September.
And what's this on? Sorry.
And this is on, it's on quite a few actually. So now, have you seen how they start putting them on quite a few at the same time? So it's like true crime investigation. I've seen it on both of those.
Yeah, but how am I getting these? Like on
your TV.
Oh, just on the channel?
Yeah. So, you know, like if you just keep scrolling down, you get like, on ours, we've got like Virgin.
Okay.
So you get to like MTV and whatever you're looking at.
Right.
And if you just go a bit further down, there's True Crime TV, Crime Investigation. And obviously I've always got that channel
you've
on.
had to, I'm going to say you've had to go past Catfish there
to get to the True Crime Dallas Cowboys to get to the True Crime one. I watched it on catch up actually, so I'm sure it's ITV that do a lot of the crime catch ups at the moment, ITVX. And episode 1 was about Ellie Edwards, and this is a case that I had heard about.
See, I haven't heard of this one.
And I think when I go into the detail on it, because I'd not heard, when the name came up, I thought, I've never heard of this. But when it went into it, I thought, oh, yeah, I do actually remember.
Okay.
So it was on Christmas Eve, so the 24th of December in 2022, there was a mass shooting, and it was at a pub in Wallasey in Merseyside.
Right, okay.
5 people were injured. Quite a few were injured quite bad, but there was one who ended up being Ellie Edwards that was actually killed and lost a life. I saw it on the news and I remember thinking, oh God, this is horrific. I can't remember if it was on the news or on like Facebook or, you know, like in general. Yeah. And it was such a sad case because Ellie Edwards wasn't a criminal. She wasn't anything to do. Yeah. It was just chance that she had been stood there at the time.
Was it just a random?
Yeah, so the documentary actually starts off with CCTV footage in a pub with, it was just like, I think it was called the Lighthouse Pub. Okay. And it was a normal Christmas Eve where your family all get together, go out to the pub. Pub's absolutely packed on Christmas Eve. People are celebrating, people are drinking, people are just having a laugh. There's
Bloody
literally...
rammers.
Yeah, everyone is having such a good time. Ellie had gone out into the smoking area.
Yeah.
And while she was out in the smoking area, everyone's in the Christmas spirit. She bumps into a couple of people out there, starts chatting. Nothing out of the ordinary. So she is talking to one man in particular out there, but he is out there with one of his friends as well. Both from the local area. So everyone gets chatting, don't they, in the smoking area, whether you know them or not. Yeah.
Sometimes I just go out for a chat.
Just for a chat. Yeah. And then this was like... this bit that was the bit that got me the most. So it shows you like people on social media, what they'd posted. So it was like Snapchat and a guy was filming himself outside the pub and he was like, oh, it's Christmas Eve and it's snowing. He was like, I can't believe the last time it snowed on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
And then you see his face change and he looks up and he goes, oh my God, is that a gun?
Jesus.
And then obviously it cuts off.
Oh my God.
So this is like random people outside the pub who have gone and are just...
Yeah.
You know, it was in fact a machine gun. Okay, so not just a gun, a machine gun. Several shots were fired towards the entrance of the pub where people were standing. Literally, someone just sprayed the front of the pub with bullets. There was so much panic. Obviously, the pub was busy. News was spreading quickly. It spread on social media.
And did they know whether it was just someone that had turned up with this machine gun?
Well, at this moment in time, you know what I mean? Like, at this moment in time, the police were like, "What the hell's just happened?" So it was everyone was quite shocked, but someone was videoing. Like there was someone laid on the floor who was obviously injured. They got all people around him, and someone had like videoed. I think it was on Snapchat or Insta stories,
right?
And then you could see the writing over it, and they put, "Oh my God, someone's been stabbed in the pub." But they videoed like the victim on the floor. I thought, "Oh my God, like I don't get people who do that."
No, I don't.
You know, why do you need to do the video the crime scene?
It's awful that people do things like that, but then at the same time, unfortunately, it is then useful for the police.
Yeah,
because they can
look back on it and maybe see who was there at the time.
Yeah.
So Ellie Edwards actually suffered a gunshot wound to the head. Jesus. She was taken to hospital. It was Arrow Park Hospital, but she actually died shortly after.
And how old was she?
So she was the one fatality. I can't remember how old she is. She looked younger than me. I'd say 20s.
Yeah.
Really sort of pretty, young, blonde girl. She'd done all her hair and makeup. She actually worked as a dental nurse in the week.
Right.
And she used to finish early on a Friday so that she could go to the salon and start on her makeup job for the weekend. So she did makeup artist Friday, Saturday, getting everyone done up to go out. But then Monday to Friday, she did the dental nurse job. So her dad was actually on the documentary as well. And he said he remembers getting a bang on his door at 3 a.m. in the morning. He got woken up by his son. They rushed to the hospital, but by the time they got to the hospital, Ellie had already died. She was, honestly, the pictures, I'll have to put a picture in this episode because she was absolutely stunning.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Such like a beautiful girl on the CCTV. She was laughing, she was hugging people, she was so happy. Honestly, it was awful.
Like, you never imagine a time that something like that's going to happen.
No.
But especially not when it's like Christmas Eve and you are just, I mean, I get so caught up in like the atmosphere of things like
you
that.
do,
when
don't you?
Everyone's having a good time.
Christmas spirit.
Yeah, and you just wouldn't even for a second consider that something like that's going to happen.
One good thing in this case is the pub was covered with CCTV inside and outside. So they've got the CCTV evidence to go through, and when the police arrive at the scene, they get bullet casings and bullet fragments.
Yeah.
They worked out that from these bullet casings, it was actually a Scorpion machine gun that was used, and it fires 850 rounds per minute.
Jesus Christ.
850, and it was used to spray basically outside the pub. It's designed for the armed forces and security services. And it showed you a picture of the gun, and I thought, that's such it looked it looked like a, I don't know what it looked like. It didn't even look like a proper gun.
Right.
It just looked strange, like something I'd never seen before.
So I assume you find out who the offender is? Do you find out motive?
So 5 people were hit outside the pub, but it was only Ellie that was fatal and she lost her life. 2 other people were seriously injured, and 2 of the guys that were seriously injured were the people who were talking to Ellie outside the pub. Yeah. They were known to the police and they were known offenders, and it was on 2 estates in this area in Merseyside.
Yeah.
And it was relating to gang crime. So one was at one side, one was at the other. So the guys that were talking to Ellie outside the pub were from one side.
Right.
And the CCTV showed a black Mercedes pulling up into the car park and backing into a parking space, facing the entrance.
Yeah.
He then climbed into the back of the car.
Right.
And waited there for like half an hour. So he's waiting for these guys
to
come outside. It was just by chance that Ellie was stood out there.
Yeah.
He then covered his face up, got out of the car, and he like shimmied against the wall, turned around, just sprayed the whole front of the pub with bullets.
How do you even get like a gun like that in the first place? Like,
I don't know.
Obviously, that'll be a crime in itself because they'll have got it illegally. But and you just think like, how would you even?
I don't even know. So Ellie, in this case, was a totally innocent bystander that was just outside the pub at the wrong time. He was only 10 to 12 feet away from the entrance to the pub when he fired. It was a single gunman. It was clear CCTV. It was a stolen vehicle.
Right.
He covered his face and he wore gloves. So the police still had no suspect, no murder weapon, couldn't trace the car. So then a public appeal went out. There was a press conference, and it was New Year's Eve. Okay. Police actually got CCTV from a Shell garage, and this stolen car that was used in the crime, pulled up at the Shell garage, filled up, but because this is on a different day, he just walks into the Shell garage and pays for his fuel normally.
I didn't think
so. The
CCTV
in the Shell garage then picked up his face, which was then identified by the police because he was known to them already.
Yeah.
So it was a guy called Connor Chapman, and then the bullet casing, they found DNA on it that matched him.
Yeah, putting it in. That's the thing, isn't it? A lot of people, when they commit crimes, they aren't thinking of the before and after.
Yeah.
They're just thinking of like then
the
and there.
Time of the crime.
And they might give more thought to afterwards, but generally, if it's a couple of days later, again, they're not going to be thinking as carefully as they were at the time.
No, but something that I found shocking that it told you at the end of this, and I've just told you most of the story, but there is a lot of more
detail.
Evidence and detail if you want to watch the documentary. So in 2009, Connor Chapman had actually been in court for a shooting.
Right.
That came up as attempted murder.
Okay.
But then it was dropped to GBH.
Right.
He went to court and he was acquitted by a jury for lack of evidence. Wow. And he should have been serving a 10-year sentence at that time. Happened. So if he served the full 10 years, Ellie would still be alive. So on the 1st of January, he obviously went on the run because he knew the police were onto him.
And was he quite young as well, generally, with these cases?
Yeah, he looked really young, to be fair. He went to trial. This time he got found guilty of Ellie's murder, and they gave him a life sentence, minimum 48 years.
Did he get any attempted for the other people that were injured or not?
Not as far as I know on this. Is all it said at the end is he got a minimum of 48 years. I don't know if that was just for Ellie or if that was for the others, because obviously 2 people were seriously injured. Another 3 people had minor injuries, and then obviously a fatality.
And it's in that case, isn't it? It's with intent, because he's obviously sought out the weapon. They've seen him like hiding and waiting.
Yeah, it was horrible. When you saw him pull up into that parking space and climb into the back of the car, the CCTV was so clear.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, he's waiting. And this poor girl has no idea. She's just gone out to the smoking area on Christmas Eve, happy in the Christmas spirit, and ended up being murdered.
Yeah, murdered. And again, the people that she was at the pub with, just inside, she'd have probably just gone out for 10 minutes.
Yeah. And the thing is, the people who were, the 2 men who were actually the target of the attack, she didn't know them.
Yeah.
She just got randomly talking to them.
Yeah, it's not even like guilty by association, because she wasn't associated.
She was inside, but with her friends, not with these people.
Ugh, it's awful.
It was, honestly, the story in general was absolutely awful.
And it's so odd, isn't it, that there's always some connection somewhere.
Yeah.
In the last episode that we that came out, we talked about like Putney Common and Wimbledon and stuff, and that's where my family are from. So there's connection there.
Yeah.
Me and my mates, there's a group of lads that I've known since like primary school, and all our like families are still in the same village, so we tend to go out to the pub on Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
But like later, so we'll go like 8, 9ish. And it's exactly this, and I can't even imagine something like that happening.
Yeah, and I can imagine you talking to everyone.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You'll be inside, outside, round and about.
Yeah. And I just, even for them, to think like if that were me, it's just beyond belief, isn't it?
Yeah. So that's mine, what I've been watching. And like I said, there's 9 series out, so there's plenty on there to watch and plenty to go through, but this is the newest one.
I'm really annoyed now because yesterday I was in a garden centre and I was looking at the book section. It's a big garden centre, and in the book Tong Garden Centre. I don't recommend it at the minute if anyone's watching in live time, because they haven't yet set up for Christmas, but half of the garden centre is just empty where like they're waiting for Christmas stuff. So it was a bit sparse.
Well, yeah, but it is only September.
Well, I know, but there's none
this
of the
episode
other stuff.
Actually might come out beginning of October.
Yeah.
Maybe. So it might be October by this time.
But there's nothing... It was weird. Anyway,
sparse.
So but the book section was plentiful. And while I was there was a book version of Crimes That Shook the World.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And another 2 that were true crime, like something like Britain's Worst Murders, or again, Murders That Shook the World. And I thought, oh, that's interesting, because I was going to take a picture and put it on our story, and then I thought, oh no, people are probably bored of seeing book covers.
No, I don't think they are, to be fair.
And so I wonder whether that covered similar cases or whether it's done by the same people.
Yeah.
That have done the series.
The TV. Yeah, maybe.
And I also think for a book, I wonder what cases are covered, whether or not it is just the bigger ones like the Yorkshire Ripper and things like that, or whether it'd be a couple that
like the smaller ones as well.
Yeah, heard of. Because obviously book form, you can't, it's then captured, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you know whose book I found really good for the cases, for the weird and interesting, like weird and wonderful cases? Patricia's. Yeah. Like all of those cases you think, oh yeah, I'd probably have heard of these, and you haven't, and you just think, how did that even happen? Like, how is she even going to investigate this? Yeah. So I found hers really good for the
I would
cases.
Love to get someone on that's either been a post-mortem assistant or in a mortuary.
Yeah.
Because again, when we've spoken to people on our team that have been mortuary assistants, some of the cases that they talk about is just, like I always think of the bark, the one that there was a man that was found with bark in his system, in his stomach.
Yes.
It's absolutely fascinating, incredible. And then the other thing that I've been, again, trying to wind down and watch is Law and Order Special Victims Unit.
Don't think I've...
Have you never watched
Well, I don't know. I feel like I watch loads of stuff and I never remember the name of it.
So it's the one that's got Ice Cube in it. And then Olivia Benson.
No, I haven't watched it.
Oh.
No.
So Olivia Benson is the character name.
It's the American one, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the dun dun.
Yeah.
That one.
I do actually know what you mean.
It's always on like Channel 5 or Plus 5 or whatever, but they've put it on Netflix. So I've been able to...
Oh, I'll watch that then if it's on Netflix. Because this morning I was thinking, what am I going to watch while I'm getting ready?
Well, there you go. And again, it's awful that it's an easy watch because it's Special Victims Unit. So it's either child-related, sexual assault-related, or... like sometimes they do cult cases, things like that. But obviously it's just an hour-long American ridiculousness.
You know, we talk about all these and then I get home and I think, oh my God, what was that Beth told me to watch? Or what was that? And then I can't remember what I've spoke
I'll
about.
just send you a big
list.
list.
We need to actually start writing a list of these so I can go home and watch them.
But Law and Order Special Victims Unit is really good, primarily because Olivia Benson, who is like the head of the unit, is just incredible. Big girl crush on her. She is very nuanced in her like strong, tough woman, but then also has a real victim side that she shows in some. So it's good. It's really good.
Did you ever watch Bones?
Yes, but again, that's one that I never really got into as much.
Because now it's old, isn't it? It's like old.
I have, again, I've done a rewatch of Bones now.
Because when I first started uni, so I didn't know what I wanted to go into and I didn't expect to go into the sort of forensic anthropology side. Didn't even know what I wanted to do the next day of my life, never mind next year. And I always used to watch it and I used to think, oh my God, absolutely love Temperance. She's just so good. And
is
then...
she the lead character then?
And she's the bone lady.
Okay.
And I watched it, and then it was just like all these years later, I thought, oh my God, remember when I used to watch Bones and I used to want to be Temperance? And then I actually did a master's in forensic anthropology. I mean, now my job is not like all the time anthropology focused. It's more like of a wider range of forensics. But I just looked back and thought, how strange that I wanted to literally be her. Yeah. And then I actually got the degree in it. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I like things like that when you look back and you're like, oh, I was really interested in that at a time and now it's kind of
What
come
was
back.
was it like NCIS? Do you remember Abby in NCIS?
Yeah.
I used to love Abby as well in that.
Abby's a lot more like me.
Yeah, she is.
Abby, if I was going to be anyone in one of those kinds of programs.
But when I first
think I'd be an
started
Abby.
studying forensics, and it was when all these programs like CSI, NCIS were all like so popular.
Yeah.
And people always used to say to me, so are you like Abby then? Yeah. Are you Abby or are you Temperance or are you such and such? And they used to relate it back to like names of the...
Well, you do. It's like a frame of reference, isn't it? So that you can kind of get your head around how it works. Yeah. Because people just genuinely have
But I used to love Abby. I was like, I wouldn't mind being an Abby either.
Yeah. It's funny how much like the characters you like put weight into. Do you know what I mean? Like how you see them and that you're rooting for them and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I think it gets overlooked sometimes, don't you? Because you're just kind of watching it, but then actually you're like, oh no, I am quite invested in what happens to this person.
Yeah. We do get involved, don't we?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's it for mine anyway, that I've been watching, listening to, and God knows what.
Well, the only other thing I was going to say is that in terms of watching things and listening to things, it's only recently that I've had time because as some of you will know from either listening or watching the episodes, we have a sponsor, Think Forensic, and Think Forensic has just undergone a massive transformation. They've actually moved premises. And I say they, it's very much a we, because we both work for them.
But I've had nothing to do with this, to be fair.
Yeah.
I've had absolutely nothing to do with moving. I am rubbish at DIY. I am rubbish at doing anything to do with knocking walls down. I can't paint and do the artwork like you can. I literally turn up to work and do my job and leave. And I'm not really capable of doing the creative stuff or the labour or anything like that. Actually, I think I could have done a lot of the labour work because I am strong.
Yeah, you are.
But people always look at me, especially at work, I think, and think, Annie won't want to get
she won't
involved with
wanna do
that. She won't want to get dirty. She won't want to break a nail. So I think I've got like a bit of a
You've got a good get out clause. You can use it to your advantage.
Yeah, but I would actually have helped.
No,
I did say to Ree, like, if you need me for anything, let me know. But I think she was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
We'll not bother with her.
Don't
She
worry.
might make it worse.
But yeah, so we've now got a brand new crime scene centre. So if anyone's looked into potentially visiting before, it's literally just 5 minutes down the road from where it was previously. But it is now a specifically built, designed, made to measure centre, which is a new improved version of the last place.
Saw it for the first time the other day when I went in.
Yeah, and when we talk about people having no concept of what actually goes on, like, again, you kind of use things on TV for your frame of reference. This really helps people to get a better idea of what it is actually like, primarily for CSIs, when processing crime scenes, because that's the kind of experience day that you can do.
Yeah, so, but it's also like, I feel like the crime scene centre, we get a lot of general public coming in to see what it's like to do, like to be a CSI for the day or the investigating side of it. But we do a lot of work with schools, colleges and universities, and especially in secondary school where people don't actually know what they want to do.
Yes.
It's a bit of like a taster into the real world, isn't it?
Yeah,
of the real world of
absolutely.
crime scene investigation. So
Yeah.
if we do have any like teachers watching, and you organise your trips or, you know, you're science based,
Yeah.
then it might be worth having me and Beth come.
Yeah, we could be in your school.
Or come to the crime scene
Yeah.
centre. We could be
Or
coming.
if you're at school, just show your teachers this and be like, we want these.
We could be coming to a school
Yeah.
near you. We should do a UK tour.
Yeah.
We do
We're on
anyway.
tour, yeah.
We do
We're
anyway
going
at
on
work.
tour. But yeah, so that's just been absolutely manic, but just so rewarding. Like, it's unbelievable how good it looks now. And it's just going to be so much, we're going to be able to do so much more of the having schools into the centre, using it for training, using it for corporate events. So it is very exciting. One bit of feedback that we do often get on the basis of like people not really knowing what it's like is that it's really overwhelming. And there's kind of nothing we can do about it in terms of feedback for an experience day, because we give you the tools. We don't obviously give you everything because there's not enough time, but then we leave you in a crime scene. We don't just leave you, we come around and check on you. But people are like, it's really overwhelming. And we're like, but yeah, but that's what it's like. And you've only got...
That's what it's like in real world.
You've only got a tiny, tiny snippet of it. So
you know what is overwhelming? Walking into a real crime scene one day after you finish your degree and having to do the job in real life. That's overwhelming.
But that's the thing, and I think that's why it is so valuable that it's an opportunity for people to see it.
Yeah.
Because it's one thing saying, oh, it's not like you see it on TV, but then
It's
when
actually
they get
not.
a tiny little taster of it, I think it is what people need sometimes to understand. Because again, it's not just kids that sometimes don't know what they want to do. Quite often we get people that are wanting a career change or have always wanted to do something like this and have never known whether or not to.
I feel like it's good because you could actually come to the crime scene centre and you could do one of our experience days for fun.
Yeah.
Or you could come and do it more seriously and actually learn a hell of a lot about forensics, because the people that we have working and part of our team come from all different backgrounds and, you know, they've got so much experience in their own little expertise that if we don't know something, someone will. And I just feel like I wish there was something like this about when I was younger.
Yeah.
And I mean, I say when I was younger because I've been working for Think Forensic now since 2011, which makes me sound really old. And I started working for Think Forensic before I even started university. So it was around, but we didn't have like the whole crime scene centre.
Yeah,
we used to just go into
capacity,
schools.
was it?
There wasn't something where we could go. I was there when they had the very first crime scene centre, but it's nothing like what we've got now. So it's obviously evolved over the years. And I just think it adds so much value if you're thinking about like a career, even in criminology, CSI, police, like there's just so many things you can learn from it.
And it's just fascinating in general, isn't it? It's so cool. But yes, so there you go. So now I do have a lot more time. Now the building work is complete.
Yeah, because you've been busy, haven't you, with that?
Yeah, I've got a lot more time to just binge watch Special Victims Unit and Midsomer Murders again, which is lovely. And obviously more cases for the podcast. And again, on that, we are going to be recording our last episode at the beginning of December, aren't we?
Yeah, so what date does our last episode come out? Is it the 4th or the 9th?
I thought it was the 15th.
The 15th.
Anyway,
okay.
So we are going to be going right up until December. Basically.
And when you say last episode, we don't mean we're leaving you for good. We mean the last episode of season 1.
Yes.
We're not going anywhere.
But what we want you to know is that, yes, we'll be back, but there is going to be an end to season 1, which means if there is something you want us to cover, if there's a topic, like if you enjoyed the death penalty, the death row episode, if there's another case, if there's something like the botany episode discussing the evidence that you are interested in, let us know, because that we can make that our priority for filming before we come to the end of season 1.
Yeah. And I don't know when we're planning on being back, but it'd be nice to have sort of Christmas off without doing the editing and everything, and then maybe come back refreshed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe early next year-ish.
For season 2, that's mad, isn't it?
Season 2 of Great Secrets.
But yeah, so thank you ever so much, because we're keeping it going because people are listening and watching, which is incredible. And as we always bang on about, please leave us a review, leave us some comments, subscribe if it's on YouTube.
Yeah, we're going for 40,000 views on YouTube.
Yeah, it all makes a massive difference to us. And we do put an awful lot of hard work in, don't we?
We do. I mean, researching these episodes, people think that they're filming it and you just come on and you speak for an hour, but we usually speak for an hour and a half.
Yeah. Sorry about
And
that.
then we've got, you do the artwork, I do the editing, we research all of the cases.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that does actually go in behind the scenes, and we have been toying with the idea of doing a Patreon as well. So if that is something you'd be interested in, we will make it really cheap for you per month. And thinking about doing some other stuff, like it's coming to Scaregrounds and stuff are coming up. I think that would be hilarious to
absolutely
to film us like scared to death.
Get
like one
GoPro
of the Scaregrounds
on the go or something.
Yeah, so talking about Scaregrounds actually, because when this comes out, it'll be coming up to Halloween. We've got Yorkshire Scareground, which I went to that the other year with my sister, and it took us about 15 minutes to get through the door because there was a woman there with a face covered, like where they have the hair over the front, and it took me ages. And then me and my sister, someone jumped out from under a bridge with a chainsaw. Obviously, it's all fake. Starts revving the chainsaw. We were screaming, and I went and jumped on a security guard, and he were fuming. I was like, how can he not expect this?
Yeah. Maybe
then,
he's had that many people do it that he's just like,
there's one of them where it's a maze.
Right.
And inside it's like
a corn maze.
No, it's like an inside a building maze, and it's got like grids up on the walls, you can grab hold of. Yeah. And it's all smoke. And you get to this middle bit of the maze, you go in like 6 people at a time. Yeah. And so me and my sister are in the middle, and you get into the centre of the maze, and there's like a bed laid out, and there's crazy scientists.
Okay.
And they choose one person to grab. I'm sure they're not meant to touch you.
Yeah.
And this woman came up and she grabbed my face, and she was literally screaming in my face in all the makeup as like a mad scientist. Anyway, during this time, I was the one that got held back and got grabbed, and my sister left me, went with the rest of the group, and I could hear her shouting, sorry, running away.
Well, at least you know, like, in case of a real emergency, what would happen.
I managed to catch up with the group, and you walk through this really narrow bit, and there's lab coats either side, and you're trying to like get your way through lab coats, and someone were grabbing my feet from underneath, like, oh, it was so bad. And then because me and my sister get so scared really easy, but we're just comical as well. People are just like, seriously. And we got into this maze. Anyway, we got separated from the group. Yeah. This chainsaw guy comes at us again, and we ran down a dead end in the maze, and we were on the floor, both of us were huddled down a dead end with like covering our faces, covering everything. And in the end, the guy had to just stop what he was doing and be like, get up and go. The next people are coming in, get up and get out. And he had to tell us which way to go to get out without chasing us, because we were screaming on the floor. We just love scaring ourselves. But there was one that I saw that I suggested we went to, and it is in a abandoned,
It's
is it
an
mental
old asylum,
hospital?
isn't it? Yeah.
An abandoned asylum, and it's got like things that you do within it, and that looks scary. But I did actually used to live in Middlewood Mental Hospital. That sounds crazy because it's not a mental hospital now, it's been refurbished, and people used to say in there that it was haunted. And there was I think it was either when I was on, because I'd got a duplex.
Right.
When I was on one of the floors, I could hear people running up and down, up and down, up and down, but there were no one above me in that area of the house.
So maybe that was...
And I was in the main mental hospital on the bottom floor, but then my duplex went down into the cellar. So
that's cool.
If we go to that one, I'm not sure where it is, but I think that'll be quite a fun thing to do and film.
Because I've done York Scareground before, and that was really good. I'm like the opposite. So when I just laugh hysterically, like I just find it all really funny. But then it's the like shock factor, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there was one bit in this scare, and I can't remember what, it was probably like Chainsaw Guy or something, but someone came up behind me and my reaction was just to go, no.
Like he's a child.
And I like jumped, but then I just straight away, without even thinking about it, I was like, no. Just shouted at him.
I'm one of them. I run and they chase me. I'm one of those people, like they can see you coming a mile off, and I always think, right, when we go in, just try and not act scared, because all the actors then are gonna come for you. And they just absolutely destroyed me and my sister. It was hilarious.
Or you know, like in the bits in between where you're walking around and they're just trying to scare you, I'll like go digga 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 or something like that, just to wind them up.
Oh God, no, I don't go anywhere near them. Like I couldn't even sit and eat my food and drink because I was that scared.
But yeah, so we'll definitely do one of those.
I think if we do stuff like that is more like funny and you can see our reaction to stuff.
Yeah.
And do things like that more personal to us on a Patreon.
Yeah. And if anyone's seen, I've started posting a few bloopers.
Yes, because I've finally worked out how to do it in the editing.
To our Instagram, and we're going to be posting some more of those as well, because there's just so much ridiculousness, isn't there?
You know, I'm so gutted because I've only just worked out how to get a short clip, get like the clip out of it and just save that section of it without going all the way back through it again. And I'm gutted I didn't do it earlier, because there's been some hilarious ones that I videoed and sent you, they're like halfway through. Yeah. And then I've not been able to save them, and then I've had to cut them out of the main episode. Yeah. So now I've worked out how to do it. There's going to be loads.
And I just can't believe like how much of what I do is out loud. I was talking about this at a family meal yesterday. I just don't, sometimes I genuinely think that what's going on outwardly is just internal.
Right. And so then when you watch yourself back, you're like, oh, I actually do
that was all like out loud.
And then you wonder sometimes why I'm sat there like, the fuck is Beth on about now?
What is she doing now? Yeah, so turns out I'm a lot more outwardly weird, as well as inwardly weird.
Okay, well, that's a good thing, I suppose.
Yeah. So there we go.
Bit more of our personalities.
Yes. So that's been another episode of Your True Crime Eyes and Ears. Again, if you've got any recommendations for us, please let us know. And we probably won't do one of these for a few episodes now, because it'll be back to case studies and evidence and things. Yeah. But like Annie says, if you do have an interest in more of this type of thing, like the more informal bit of us, then again, let us know and we will start a Patreon.
Yeah, and make sure you get your requests in before we finish season 1.
Yes.
So we don't know the exact date, sometime mid-November.
At some point.
Mid-November, last episode will go out. We did have this planned out and written down somewhere.
It is written down somewhere. Yeah.
We'll just have to go through and find it. Yeah. So thank you everyone for watching and listening, and we'll be back again next week.
Take care.